The rain was coming down in soft, relentless sheets as Marcus hurried down the street, his shoes slapping against the wet pavement with every step. Today was the day. His biggest job interview. His heart raced, not from nerves, but from the weight of everything riding on this moment. He'd done the prep work. He'd memorized his answers, perfected his pitch. All he had to do now was get there, nail it, and finally take the leap toward his big break. The kind of break that would change everything. But of course, life had other plans. As Marcus rounded the corner, his mind was laser-focused on the interview. He couldn't afford to be late. Not today. But then, the universe decided to throw him a curveball. A woman stood on the side of the road, her car visibly struggling with a flat tire. No one else was stopping. She looked stranded, frustrated, and helpless. For a second, Marcus hesitated. He was running late, really late. But something in the way she was staring at the tire, like it was the last thing standing between her and the end of the world, pulled at him. The rain kept falling, but he couldn't just leave her there. He glanced at his watch. He could still make it if he hurried. But instead of sprinting to his destiny, he walked over to her, rolled up his sleeves, and set to work on a tire he had no intention of fixing. Because in that moment, he realized that sometimes the road to success isn't about racing toward your goal. Sometimes it's about helping someone along the way. If you're loving this story, hit that like button and subscribe for more twists and turns. Marcus could barely focus on the rain. It drummed on his windshield, a relentless beat that only seemed to sync up with the pounding of his heart. He was so close. So close. The company he was interviewing for was right up ahead, and the job could be the one that finally pulled him out of the grind. His mind was racing with everything he wanted to say, all the right words, the perfect pitch. He had the nerves under control, or at least he was pretending to. All he needed was to get there. But as he zoomed past a streetlight, he saw her. A woman, standing next to a car, clearly in distress. The flat tire on her car was like a giant red flag waving in his face. There was no mistaking it. She was stuck, and it looked like no one else was going to help her. Of course, Marcus thought to himself, why would anyone stop in this weather? Everyone's rushing somewhere. Everyone's got places to be. For a brief second, Marcus tried to justify not stopping. His interview was in less than an hour. He could already hear the voice of his mom in his head. You gotta think about your future, Marcus. Don't waste time helping strangers. They'll be fine. But then another thought hit him. What if no one stops and she really is stuck? He cursed under his breath, looking down at his watch. Damn it, he muttered. He was already late. What was another couple of minutes, right? Marcus turned the wheel with an exaggerated sigh and pulled the car to the side of the road. The rain was now coming down in sheets, soaking through his jacket before he even stepped outside. He grabbed the spare tire from his trunk and cursed again, knowing this wasn't how he planned to spend his morning. Hey, looks like you're in a bit of a jam, Marcus called out as he walked over. The woman turned, her face a mix of frustration and resignation. You don't even know, she said with a smile, though the exhaustion in her voice was unmistakable. I've been out here for 20 minutes, and I'm pretty sure I don't know how to change a tire. Marcus chuckled under his breath. I'm no expert, but I can give it a shot. He raised the tire and showed it to her like he was presenting a prize at a carnival. I promise this will be way easier than it looks. She raised an eyebrow. Really? Because last time I tried to do this, I had to call a tow truck. Oh, don't worry, Marcus grinned. I've got dad-level knowledge of cars. He was talking like he was some kind of automotive genius, but deep down, he was sweating bullets. He had no idea what he was doing. Sure, he'd watched a YouTube video on how to change a tire once, but that was from the comfort of his couch. Now, he was standing in a downpour, with an audience of one, feeling like an imposter. His mind was on his interview, but his hands were focused on getting this tire off and back on as quickly as possible. I swear, if I get this wrong, I might just end up making things worse, Marcus mumbled, not realizing he'd said it out loud. The woman laughed. I won't hold it against you if the car ends up looking like a transformer by the time you're done. I might end up doing that, Marcus joked back, wiping the rainwater from his face with his sleeve. But hey, at least we'll both have something to talk about. The exchange lightened the mood, and for the next few minutes, Marcus found himself actually enjoying the distraction. His hands were a little slippery from the rain, but he managed to get the jack under the car without much trouble. Every time the car made a strange noise, he'd glance over at the woman and crack a joke. She was surprisingly cool about the whole situation, her smile never faltering, even as the rain seemed to pick up, almost like nature was testing their patience. "Have you ever changed a tire before?" she asked as Marcus wrestled with the lug nuts, trying to loosen them. No," Marcus admitted, wiping his hands on his pants. "But I've watched a lot of YouTube videos. I'm pretty sure I'm practically a mechanic by now." "Right," she replied sarcastically. "Next thing I know, you'll be changing the oil and fixing the engine." He grinned. "Don't tempt me. I might just do it. We're in this together now, after all." As he struggled with the last bolt, he glanced at his phone. He was running out of time. His stomach sank. His interview was in 15 minutes, and there was no way he was making it. He sighed and threw a sideways glance at her. "I'm probably going to miss the interview now. This was dumb." She looked at him, eyes full of understanding. "Hey, you're doing the right thing. I mean, I would have been stuck out here for hours if you hadn't stopped." Marcus shook his head, fighting the urge to laugh at his own situation. "Well, if you're ever stranded again, I hope you'll remember that I did help you out, even if it's at the expense of my career." He winked. She laughed too. "Don't worry, I think I'll be telling that story for a while. You've already helped more than most would." With the tire finally back on and the job looking like it was slipping away, Marcus gave her a thumbs up. "There we go, all done. You're good to go." She smiled, and with a small wave, she got into her car, looking a little less stressed than before. "Thank you, really," she said. "I don't know what I would have done without you." "You're welcome," Marcus said, and as she drove off into the rain, he realized he had just spent the last 20 minutes of his life helping a stranger, and potentially throwing away his biggest opportunity. But he couldn't shake the thought. Sometimes life doesn't care about your schedule. Sometimes it's about the people you meet along the way. Marcus's heart was pounding as he jumped back into his car, the adrenaline of the tire change still buzzing through his body. He glanced at his watch. 45 minutes? He was supposed to be at his interview 5 minutes ago. The heavy raindrops on the windshield only seemed to mock him as he hit the gas, his mind racing with thoughts of what could have been. His interview was with the company, the one that had the reputation, the one with the prestige, the one that could be his ticket out of this grind, the one he could brag about at every family gathering for the next decade. But now it felt like that ticket had just been lost in the back seat, tossed in the trash along with his dignity and any hope of a smooth morning. 30 minutes later, he finally pulled up to the sleek, glassy building, its modern architecture towering over him like a cruel reminder of his failure. Marcus didn't even bother to try to fix his hair. The wind and rain had already destroyed it beyond recognition. He grabbed his folder, half drenched but still hopeful that he could make a miracle happen. This was it. His chance. As he walked up to the security desk, he plastered on a smile that he hoped looked more confident than it felt. "Hi, I'm here for the interview," he said, his voice cracking slightly as the fatigue of the morning hit him. The security guard barely looked up from his screen, a bored expression etched on his face. "Name?" "Marcus Green." The guard tapped a few keys on the keyboard, then looked up, deadpan. "You're late." Marcus blinked, like he hadn't heard it right. "Late?" 40 minutes. The security guard finally lifted his eyes from the screen and glanced at Marcus like he was some sort of annoying fly buzzing in the room. "The interview already started. They're not letting anyone in now." Marcus stared at the man, blinking in disbelief. The rain soaked through his jacket, making it cling to his skin. His shirt was a mess, his shoes practically swimming in water, and he had just spent the last 40 minutes helping a woman with a flat tire. And now, just like that, his shot was slipping away faster than he could say, career suicide. He glanced over his shoulder at the building. So pristine, so professional. Inside, they were probably all sitting around, discussing his potential, deciding whether or not he was worth it. But now? He was the guy standing outside, hoping someone would give him a second chance. Marcus let out a heavy sigh and slumped against the desk. "Are you serious?" 40 minutes? I mean, what am I supposed to do now? The security guard didn't even blink. Wait for another round of interviews, maybe, but they're probably going to be booked for a while. Are you telling me that if I'm late, I just don't get in? Marcus asked, raising his eyebrows. The guard shrugged. That's pretty much how it works. Marcus ran a hand through his wet hair, muttering under his breath. Well, this is great. I could be literally anywhere else right now. I could be at home watching Netflix. I could be at a coffee shop reading a book, maybe even writing an angry email to the universe for making me this stupid. I could be playing basketball with my boys. Heck, I could even be chasing down a bus. Anything but here, standing in the rain, getting rejected by a door. He stopped himself, realizing he was talking out loud. The guard didn't care. He probably hadn't even registered that Marcus was still talking. For a brief moment, Marcus thought about walking away. Just turning around, getting in his car and driving home. Forget the interview, forget the job, forget everything. He had helped that woman, right? And that had to count for something. Maybe fate had just decided that today wasn't his day, and there was no point in forcing it. But then, in that split second, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. It was a text from his mom. Did you get there? Good luck. I know you're gonna crush it. Marcus stared at the message, his eyes burning with frustration. He thought about texting her back, telling her everything had gone wrong, that he was standing outside like a joke. But he couldn't. He couldn't disappoint her. Not like this. All right, screw it, he muttered to himself. He wasn't going to give up without at least trying. He had come this far. He couldn't just let it slip away because of a flat tire and a little rain. Listen, Marcus said, trying to put some hope into his voice as he turned back to the guard. Can you at least let me speak to someone? Like, maybe someone inside could make an exception? Just a quick chat. I promise it won't take long. The security guard gave him a skeptical look. You really want to try that? He asked, raising an eyebrow like he had seen a million hopefuls in the same exact spot. Marcus nodded firmly. Yeah, I do. The guard sighed, picked up the phone, and dialed the receptionist. You want me to tell them there's a guy who's late and really wants in? Fine. The phone call ended with a sigh from the security guard, and Marcus's heart sank. This wasn't looking good. But just as he was about to turn around and face the reality of being completely rejected, something unexpected happened. Just as Marcus was about to give in to the weight of disappointment and walk away, he heard the unmistakable hum of an engine approaching. He glanced up, thinking it was just another company employee pulling in, ready to flaunt their well-maintained car and perfect punctuality. But then, the vehicle rolled into the parking lot, its tires sloshing through the puddles with a confidence that struck him. It was her. The same woman he'd just helped change a tire in the rain. The woman who had been stranded on the side of the road just moments ago. And now she was here, casually pulling into the lot like she owned the place. The universe had thrown a curveball, and it hit him square in the face. She parked her car with the grace of someone who wasn't worried about flat tires or interviews. With a smooth motion, she stepped out, looking nothing like the woman he'd just seen drenched on the side of the road. Her clothes were dry, her hair somehow flawless despite the rain, and she had the kind of walk that made you think she belonged to a different world. Marcus blinked twice. He couldn't be seeing this right. She strolled over to him, her heels clicking against the pavement as if she had all the time in the world. Hey, she called out with a smile like they were old friends. What's going on? You're still here? For a moment, Marcus just stood there, completely taken aback. Of all the places, of all the people he could be talking to right now, it had to be her, the very person he helped miss his chance. His brain was scrambled, and his mouth didn't seem to know how to form words. He opened and closed his mouth like a fish out of water. Yeah, I helped you with your tire, he finally managed, gesturing to the building. And now I'm standing here because they won't let me in for my interview. I'm 40 minutes late. The woman raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued by the situation. 40 minutes? So you're telling me you're here because you helped me change a flat tire? She paused, glancing around the parking lot, before looking back at him with a grin. That's actually kind of impressive. I mean, at the time it seemed like the right thing to do, Marcus said, half laughing, half sighing. But now it feels like I've made the worst decision of my life. She shook her head, her smile only widening. Well, I don't know what the deal is with them, but maybe I can help. Follow me. Marcus blinked. What do you mean? Just trust me, she said, winking as she turned toward the entrance. She didn't wait for him to say another word, confidently striding ahead like she knew exactly what was going to happen next. He was confused, a little stunned, but also curious. What could this woman possibly have to do with anything that was happening right now? How could she be part of the solution to his late arrival disaster? But at that point, what did he have to lose? With a hesitant step, he followed her into the building. Marcus followed her into the building, his mind racing with a mix of confusion and disbelief. Her husband? The CEO of the company he was interviewing with? How had he gone from fixing a flat tire on the side of the road to walking into the corporate headquarters like he was about to be handed a job on a silver platter? They walked through the sleek glass doors, and as they stepped inside, the lobby greeted him like a $1 million showroom. The floor was spotless, the walls were lined with polished art, and every corner seemed to whisper, "You're in the big leagues now." But Marcus felt anything but ready. His shirt was still soaked from the rain, his hair a mess, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he was in over his head. She walked ahead of him, cool and confident, as if this was just another normal day. No rush, no panic, just pure composure. He could tell she was no stranger to this place, probably a regular around the offices. She nodded to the receptionist and waved him through with a casual, "He's with me." They passed through a series of glass-walled offices, some with employees who barely spared a glance, others with their heads down, typing away, probably working on projects that Marcus could barely even imagine. The whole place felt intimidating, but she seemed completely at home. When they reached the end of the hall, she paused in front of a door marked CEO. With a knowing smile, she turned to Marcus. "Okay, brace yourself," she said, her tone teasing but with a hint of warmth. "You're about to meet my husband. Just a heads up, he's a sucker for random acts of kindness. Helps when you're applying for a job here." Marcus stared at her, still not sure if this was some kind of elaborate prank. "Wait, what? So you mean he cares about me fixing your tire?" "Oh, absolutely," she said with a laugh. "My husband loves people who show character, especially in moments like that. The ability to stop, help someone out, even when you've got other things on your mind. That's the kind of thing he values. It's one of the reasons I married him." He was speechless. Was she seriously saying that fixing her tire was the thing that could land him this job? Marcus was starting to feel like he had stepped into some weird alternate reality where he was the hero of a corporate fairy tale. He was expecting a standard interview, a grueling hour of questions and answers, but now it felt like he was being ushered into some kind of VIP treatment. The surrealism was enough to make him question his own sanity. She opened the door to the CEO's office without knocking, as if she had done this 1,000 times before. Inside, the room was as sleek and sophisticated as everything else in the building. A massive desk sat in the center, with a panoramic view of the city outside. At the far side of the room stood a man with salt and pepper hair, dressed in an impeccable suit, exuding power and authority. "Hey, babe," the woman said casually, as if she was greeting a neighbor. "I brought someone to see you." The man, who Marcus now assumed was her husband, the CEO, looked up from his papers, his expression instantly shifting from business to surprise. His eyes widened when he saw her, but then he shifted his gaze to Marcus. "You must be the one," the CEO said with a slight grin, standing up from his chair and extending a hand. "The tire guy." Marcus, still processing the whirlwind of events, shook his hand. Yeah, I'm Marcus. I helped your wife out with a flat tire earlier today." The CEO raised an eyebrow, a flicker of amusement passing over his face. "You're the one who decided that helping her was more important than making it to the interview on time?" He chuckled. "I like that." Marcus opened his mouth to explain, but the CEO cut him off. "Don't explain," he said, still smiling. "You did what any decent person would have done. And frankly, in my book, that's worth more than showing up on time." He turned to his wife with a playful grin. "I've always said, if you're going to hire someone, it should be someone who helps others without expecting anything in return." Marcus was still trying to process everything. This wasn't how interviews went. There were supposed to be awkward questions about strengths and weaknesses, your career goals, and why you wanted the job. But instead, he was standing in front of the CEO, who was thanking him for helping his wife change a tire. It was like the script had been completely flipped. "Well," the CEO continued, his gaze now serious, "I think we can skip the formalities. You've got the job, Marcus. We'll talk details later." Marcus blinked, his heart racing. "Wait, what? Seriously?" The CEO laughed. "Seriously. You've got exactly what we're looking for. Initiative, character, and the ability to make things happen, even in unexpected situations." He leaned back in his chair and gave a knowing nod. "Welcome aboard." Marcus stood there, dumbfounded, as everything clicked into place. The woman smiled at him, and he couldn't help but feel like the luckiest guy in the world. Marcus stood there in stunned silence, still processing the fact that the CEO had just said he was hired. This wasn't just any hire. It was the job he had been hoping for. The one that would set his life on a new trajectory. The job that could change everything. And yet, here he was, standing in the CEO's office, drenched, looking like he'd just crawled out of a rainstorm. The CEO, who had resumed his seat, gave a nod, like this was the most natural thing in the world. "I have to admit, Marcus, I didn't expect to meet you this way, but honestly, I love it. My wife told me what happened, how you stopped to help her with the flat tire. Not many people would do that these days, especially when they're on their way to something as important as a job interview. I'm thankful for that." Marcus, who had been expecting questions about his experience and qualifications, wasn't sure how to respond. He hadn't come here to change tires or win any Good Samaritan awards. He had come to nail the interview, but now he was trying to wrap his head around the fact that this strange twist of fate had actually worked in his favor. "Well, I mean, it was the right thing to do, right?" Marcus said, his voice a little shakier than he would have liked. He rubbed his neck, trying to brush off the awkwardness of the situation. "I wasn't going to leave her stranded, even if it did cost me the interview." The CEO's smile widened. "Exactly. That's the kind of attitude we need around here. Someone who sees a problem and just solves it, without overthinking it or trying to get something out of it." He leaned forward slightly, his tone shifting to a more serious note. "That's the kind of attitude I admire." Marcus blinked, still trying to figure out where this was going. "So, what does that mean for the interview? You know, with the whole being late thing?" The CEO chuckled, shaking his head. "Forget the interview. Forget being late. You've got the job. You're hired. On the spot." Marcus stared at him, a mix of disbelief and excitement flashing across his face. "Wait, what?" The CEO waved his hand dismissively, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "Yeah, you've got the job. But honestly, I want to sweeten the deal a bit. We've been looking for someone with your kind of initiative for a while, and we need people like you. So, how about this?" Marcus was still processing the first part of the offer, so when the CEO added, "I'll also give you a promotion, right now. The kind of position that would have taken you at least 2 years to get to. How's that sound?" Marcus's jaw nearly hit the floor. "A promotion? On day one? I'm sorry, what? Are you serious?" The CEO gave a short laugh, clearly amused by Marcus's reaction. "Oh, I'm serious. People like you don't come around every day. Helping someone without expecting anything in return? That's priceless. And it's exactly the kind of attitude I want at this company." Marcus stood there, speechless. What was happening? This was like something out of a movie. He was the hero of his own story, but the plot was way too good to be true. How was it that something as simple as changing a tire had led to this? How had helping someone in the rain, at the exact moment he was supposed to be nailing the most important interview of his life, turned into the opportunity of a lifetime? "Take a seat," the CEO said, gesturing to a chair opposite his desk. "Let's talk details, but don't stress it. You're already in. I'm just glad we're getting someone with your kind of character on board." Marcus slowly sat down, his brain trying to process everything. His emotions were all over the place. Gratitude, confusion, humor. Part of him couldn't believe how things had turned around so quickly. The other part of him wanted to burst out laughing because the whole situation was absurdly perfect. He glanced at the CEO. "I really didn't think helping with a tire would lead to all this." The CEO laughed heartily. "That's the thing about life, Marcus. You never know when a small decision can change everything. Helping someone in a moment of need? That's a game changer." Marcus couldn't help but smile. It was wild. But in that moment, he realized something. Helping people, doing good things without expecting anything in return, could have a massive impact. And here he was, proof of it. This was his chance, his shot at a new life. All right, Marcus said, still grinning. "I'll take it. You've got yourself a new employee, and a new believer in karma." The CEO chuckled. "Good. We'll make a believer out of you yet." And just like that, Marcus's life had changed in a way he never could have predicted. Marcus sat back in his new office, staring out the window at the busy city below. His life had flipped upside down in the most bizarre way possible. Just a few hours ago, he had been sweating bullets over an interview, worried that a flat tire had cost him his shot at a dream job. Now, he was sitting here, in a corner office with a promotion that would have taken him 2 years to earn, all thanks to one random act of kindness. It was crazy. His phone buzzed, and he picked it up, seeing a text from his best friend. "Dude, how'd the interview go?" He couldn't help but laugh. He typed back, "So, you know how life is unpredictable?" "Yeah, I ended up fixing a flat tire on the way to the interview, and now I have the job, and a promotion. I'm basically the corporate hero now." The reply came in seconds. "What? Are you serious? You need to tell me everything, like everything." Marcus shook his head, still in disbelief. He hadn't even processed the full scope of the day. The CEO had been grateful, his wife had been a game changer, and now he was on the fast track to success. He was grateful, sure, but also a bit stunned at how quickly everything had fallen into place. Life really did have a way of working in mysterious ways. He thought back to that moment in the rain. That feeling of frustration, the stress of being late, the uncertainty of what would happen next. But in the end, that small decision to help her had led to something huge. A simple act of kindness, a few minutes spent changing a tire, had altered the course of his career and his life. It was a reminder that the little things we do every day can sometimes have the biggest impact. Sometimes, life didn't need to be planned out or perfectly timed. Sometimes, you just had to roll with it, even when things seemed off track. And sure, Marcus was learning that helping strangers might be a bit too life-changing for his taste. But he couldn't help feeling proud of that one small decision. As he grabbed his coat and headed out for the day, he made a mental note. Next time, he'd probably think twice before jumping out in the rain to help someone with a flat tire. After all, this whole life-changing thing might not happen twice. It was a lot of rain, and honestly, his schedule was packed now. Before he left the office, he snapped a quick selfie at his new desk and posted it online with a caption. Turns out, helping people might just get you the promotion of a lifetime. Also, rain sucks. And as he clicked post, Marcus remembered to add a cheeky note. Hit like if you think helping someone with a flat tire is the way to get ahead. Subscribe for more unexpected life lessons, unless it's raining. Life was unpredictable, no doubt, but he'd take it. One flat tire at a time. What a wild ride, right? From fixing a flat tire to landing the job of a lifetime, life's crazy like that. Don't forget to hit like if you're as shocked as I am by how one small act can change everything. Subscribe so you never miss another unbelievable story like this, and drop a comment below. Have you ever helped someone out and it ended up changing your life? I want to hear your stories. Let's keep the conversation going and keep making those random life-changing decisions. Who knows? Your next small act might just be your big break.